I'm just gonna. Shit is stupid as fuck. Tell you. Anyways, all right. Now I want to talk about uh, dealing with gun control and all of that jazz. I normally don't say a lot about it because there's a lot of stuff that is still on the table policy wise about it. But as you can see here on my screen, there's this U.S. Representative Brandon Boyle tweeted out, ban the AR-15 now because it was used in the last couple of mass shootings. I tweeted that banning the AR-15 won't help. It's used because it's the most popular rifle today. It'll just make other rifles like the AK-47 or the Mini 223 even more popular. By banning the AR-15, you're not going to actually prevent the use of the AR-15 in mass shooting. This person who I blocked, which I'm going to unblock them now so you can look at the tweets, is Miss Snarky. So she says, I think it will help take a weapon for quickly killing as many people as possible off the market for civilian use. It's a start. Then I said, well, they'll just move to the AK-47, the Mini Ruger. It's only used because it's the most popular, not because it's a good weapon. Most people don't like the AR-15. Sorry, the AK-47 is way better at firing under pressure. You keep that bitch in the ground for years and let dirt and all types of shit layer and cake on it. Pick that thing up and it'll shoot just like it did 20 years ago. The AR-15, all the fucking AR rifles, they're a bunch of whiny little complaining guns. Any amount of dirt or any amount of anything causes that thing to fucking shoot outside of its accuracy. It's such a dumb weapon. I enjoy the the mini Ruger more. It's a better weapon. Whatever. Uh, so then I went in and said that, and I blocked all of them. But, block some of the other stuff. So I said there's hundreds of these weapons now. Here's an analogy that there's 40 different wireless headphones, right? Apple AirPods are extremely popular. I think they suck, but people buy them because of the cool factor, right? That's the same thing with the AR-15. People buy it because one, there's a massive amount of cheap uh, aftermarket parts for it. It's really upgrade. It's really easy to carry. It's really easy to find, and all this stuff. And by banning it, you're just going to make something else more popular that there probably should have been using anyway. She goes like, I get that, but we still have some work to do, and it wouldn't completely solve the problem. But the methods are that we can discuss the issues as we go along. Doing nothing would be worse. Yeah, but banning the AR-15 is actually going to be worse because you're going to be taking a rifle that millions of Americans enjoy. They love to use and they love it. And basically, you're going to take it out of their hands for no good reason because most mass shootings are only committed with handguns. That is it's a simple statistic. And then she says, dividing this country is more people's lives. And I said, unfortunately, banning that rifle won't save lives. I would agree it would help curtail the problem, but we need to start at the crisis point that set them off to teach people how to cope. And why would we ban a rifle that kills barely anyone versus handguns that take way more lives than anybody else? It doesn't make any sense. Uh, I recently just did a video because I take the mass shooting serious. There's something called the Violence Project, which is an amazing uh, project that's funded by the National Institute or the Institute of Justice. And what they've done is they've cataloged the last like 70 years of mass shootings and catalog them according to all of these social determinant factors. And they came up with the four commonalities of what all these mass shooters had, right? And one of the first commonalities is that they had early childhood trauma in their past, whether it be neglect, abuse, molestation, sexual assault, anything of that. All of these mass shooters had this in common, right? The second point is that they all had a crisis point in their life that caused them to plan this out or caused them to enact this violence. Before then, they were normal, and then this crisis point like a workplace violence where they get fired or they didn't get the raise that they felt that they were owed and they go and kill all their coworkers. This crisis point is what sets them off. They were completely fine before then, but it's this crisis point that we should start focusing on, teaching people how to cope. Uh, we've done something as a society is we haven't taught people the ability to cope with adverse reactions or adverse events. We haven't done a good job of that. And I used to be in the military, and even in the military, we had a problem with this. Like we have this sense of entitlement with us, and when things don't go our way, we don't know how to act. Like we just violently react to things. We don't teach people culturally how to do. This is one of the things that we should focus a lot of our time on is can't tell when somebody's going to snap because they're perfectly normal. They're perfectly fine human beings until this one instance in their life. That was another thing that I had. There's another guy on here, which I think he blocked me, but I really don't care. It's objectively subjective, right? And what he said was, oh, so you want to give pillows to people who are going to commit violence? No, dude, that's not what I said at all. I said that we should teach people how to, one, know when they're in a crisis and how to deal with them. And two, people around you should know how to deal with crisis. And you should be able to look at somebody like, hey, man, are you having a tough time? Or you know what? Is there something wrong with you? Like, we don't do this as a society. This is a part of the other thing that the Violence Project talks about is that we should teach socially and culturally how to identify these things as they happen to other people so that can uh, we can step in and stop it before it happens or anything like that. Um, then I asked him, I said, dude, so you want to ban an AR-15? Fine, whatever. How we do this in a policy way, right? So ban all future sales of AR-15s. Cool. What is that going to do? There's still, I bet you there's millions of AR-15s on the streets right now. What are you going to do with them? Are you going to confiscate them? That's not going to fucking work, man. I'm sorry. Unfortunately, I we have a Bill of Rights. In the Bill of Rights is the right to bear arms, and it is broadly interpreted. And it was just recently interpreted by the Supreme Court that it actually does include self defense. Whether you agree with that or not, that's what the fucking highest court in the land has stated. Now, it doesn't exactly say what weapons are considered self defense, but that's what we have to go off of. And you can't just arbitrarily take somebody's basic right that was given to them by the Constitution that they hold as this fucking founding document that's almost as fucking valuable as the Bible, man. It makes no sense. Like if if you are so easy to jump on that, then all of the other amendments and things in the Bill of Rights, like fucking slavery and equal rights, like how fast are you to just throw those away as well? Like I get that talking point on the right. This is what I'm worried about. It's not justifiable policy. I want policy that will work, and banning the AR-15 isn't going to work. So you ban all AR-15s, right? You ban all future sales of AR-15s. Do you grandfather the people who have AR-15? And then you have a buyback program, right? So 100,000 people turn in their AR-15s. Guess what? Those probably weren't the people that would fucking shoot people up anyways, man. You're not going to get voluntarily the AR-15s out of the hands of people who are probably going to use them nefariously. I'm sorry, it's not going to happen like that. So then what are you going to do? What do you suppose we do? Go door to door to take people's rifles. That's not going to go over well at all. It makes no sense, man. All I want is responsible policy that will help us out, right? Banning weapons isn't going to work. It's not a responsible policy because if we want to sit here and heal the divide in this country, right? It's not going to be taking something that the right feels is a part of their identity and then just trying to throw it away. When things like the Violence Project has actual empirical data, right? To help us overcome and figure out what happened to these shooters and how they became shooters, and then we can intervene there. Now, I'm not saying like banning AR-15s won't work at all. Like maybe that might be a possibility, but we have to look at this from a culture perspective. It's not going to happen in this or in this society today. It's just not. We have to change the way our culture is and the way that we view guns and the way that we don't sexualize or tie guns to masculinity or masculinity or any of that shit. That's just stupid. So the third thing that the Violence Project says, right, is that all of these mass shooters have recently studied other mass shooters, right? They've recently studied them. And one of the things that they propose is a blackout, a media blackout on these events that, like, basically you don't refer to the shooters by their name, you just refer to them at the place that it happened, and you don't sit there and give the details of the mass shooting as it happens, as it's a roadmap for the next mass shooter to do that. Because mass shootings are a social contagion that they happen in spurts because one mass shooter sees it in the news, they see they get notoriety, they see they get the attention that they were seeking because most of these people probably don't feel they feel like nothing. They don't they, they don't feel like people listen to them, and they have the chance to get the power in their hands with this AR-15 with a handgun and shoot people, right? They have the ability to get all eyes on them. Take that ability away from them. Put a blackout on the media, which should help curtail mass shooters and the social contagion aspect of the mass shooting. On top of that, just don't we don't have to talk about them all the time. We don't need to talk about mass shootings for the next fucking 3 weeks after one happened. We could talk about it for a couple days and then we need to drop it. All we're doing is we're feeding fuel to the fire of the next kid or the next fucking white 30-year-old male who's having an existential crisis in their life, right? And they see that that these people are being talked about for months and they're like, dude, that's all I want to be is listened to. Or like, I just wish women, like incels, I just wish women would pay attention to me. Well, you know what? This is how I become a Chad, right? Or whatever. This is how I do it. I just fucking go up and shoot people, dude. That we've got to do something about that. A media blackout, not talking about it, not popularizing this type of stuff. And then the fourth thing they say is access to weapons and stuff like that, which would, we could talk about the bans on AR-15, whatever, but it has to be a policy that makes sense. You just can't feelings on this issue. Like the facts over feels things. That's a great meme. Whatever. Sometimes emotions are justified. We are human. That's how we act or react to things, right? But at the same time, like you can't just go out there and want to ban the most popular rifle in America because of your feels. I'm sorry. We have to be better than this. This is a culture thing. And that's why with my next video series, I've seen ContraPoint's latest video about men, right? She has brought up a great fucking that we on the left have failed to do. We haven't painted a picture of what the 21st century man should be, like what they should aspire to, what they should be, how they should act, how they should fit in society. Like we haven't defined these things, but we've destroyed everything else, right? We've destroyed the idea of masculinity. We've destroyed the idea of what it means to be a man in today's world. And a lot of these boys don't know what the fuck to do anymore. They don't have guidance. They don't have leadership. They don't have a narrative or a story to drive them to be something in society. So they find things on YouTube that fits that and that gives them that. And that just happens to be fucking white nationalism or white identity or whatever, Nazis. We can't do that. We have to build a narrative for what it means to be a man or masculine or something so that young men in the society have something to look forward to. one of the things about ISIS was that a lot of these kids that joined ISIS is that they felt that they lived in countries that had no economic prosperity. They thought they were going nowhere. They had no identity. And ISIS gave them a purpose. It gave them a reason to live. And that's not what we're doing as a society right now. We're not building narratives for men to be. We don't paint a picture like, in medieval times it used to be the brave knight, or you were just a fucking serf, man. You were just a person that like tilled somebody's crop. Masculinity, medieval times, the subjugation of women was a part of being masculine. That was just how it was. We've gotten rid of those things. In Greece, being man was all about courage and not in standing up and fighting, and values like virtue and stuff like that. And the Spartans, it was all about violence, and it was all about standing your ground. That if you were to come home from battle without your shield, you better be on top of your shield, because they don't stand for that shit. They built this narrative into these, so they gave them purpose. Their society gave them purpose. When you look at America today, what have we done to give anybody a purpose? Like, what you think of, like what it means to be a man, and I'm not talking biological. This includes anybody that wants to be considered a man or whatever, right? What do we do as a society that gives them a purpose to do anything? Be a businessman, fucking conquer the world, start your own business. Other than that, what do we have? We don't have stories of like men just doing men things like oh, I went home and I played with my kids, and I barbecued and I grilled, and like this is what the ideal man should be. Like he should be really nice or something. We have these things. That's what I'm gonna do with my next video series. Is I'm gonna look at the history of masculinity, and then I'm gonna look at the narrative, the stories that they built around masculinity, like the gods and King Arthur and all these like fictional people. Jesus is actually, as much as I'm an atheist, Jesus is actually a great concept of masculinity, in which he was like a pure pacifist, man. It's crazy that the idea of Jesus as a man actually isn't that bad of an idea. But besides that, like we don't have these stories anymore for left. We just don't. And that's what we need to define. We need to give people purpose so that they can stop doing they stop falling in these fucking holes and like shooting people, stuff like that. Because that's usually what it is that there's some crisis point. They don't have a social network. They don't have people to lean on. They isolate themselves. This could be a byproduct of capitalism, the alienation of capitalism, because that's what we've done. I feel it sometimes. Like I have a family and stuff like that, and when I come home, sometimes I just don't want to be around anybody. But that goes against human nature. We're social animals. We're social creatures. We should want to be around other people. We should want these. Like, can you guys hear me? Well, I feel like I'm loud or something. I've never used it set up. I'm about to sell my house, so I don't have my blue microphone set up or anything. But I don't know, man. It's just stupid. Like, and the thing that I got pissed off the most about Miss Snarky and Objectively Subjective is that he was like, "You're being like Ben Shapiro." Dude, why are you going to throw ad hominems at me? We are on the same page. We both want to curtail mass shootings, except I don't want to do it through policies that don't work. I have empirical data that is funded by the National Institute of Justice, and these people have fucking, they're incredible. They know what they're talking about. They've done a lot of research on this stuff. They have peer-reviewed papers and whatever. They do a lot of great things, right? They have four commonalities that we can focus on. One of them is being able to identify when crisis is, how we as a society can step in and stop them or whatever. There was a Twitter guy. I watched a TED talk of a guy that was going to be a mass shooter, right? And he like, I just felt so alone and bullied at school, blah blah blah. And when I came home, my mom told me I was a piece of shit and blah blah blah. And he goes, you know what was the one thing that kept me from shooting up everybody? Because I bought the gun and I was ready to do it. My best friend let me live in a shed, and one night he came out there and he just sat with me. He didn't ask what I can do to help you. He just looked at me like a fucking person, you know? He He just wanted to sit under the stars and talk to me about the day. And that was the moment that changed that dude's life. He did not become a mass shooter because somebody took the fucking time to treat him like a human being, right? That's it's it seems pretty simple. Why are we having such a problem with it? I don't understand. It's fucking sad. And the guy's on my Twitter, and I've talked to him a couple times, and using his story to promote better ideas on how to change stuff like that. And that's what we do. So hopefully, guys, think about this, man. This is my challenge to you. How can we define the 21st century man? If it's not going to be through a concept of like my dick is bigger than yours, I have a gun, you know, I have ginormous muscles or whatever. How do we define the 20th man that gives them purpose in our society without creating any of the toxic masculinity or any of the adverse side effects of the way we previously defined it? That is my challenge to people. That is what we need. If you don't think so, then shoot me a better idea. Because as of right now, from what I understand about mass shootings, is that this is probably one of the biggest uh, ways that we can change uh, the outcome of mass shooting. Sit here and actually create society that doesn't allow mass shooting to happen, and that doesn't mean banning guns or fucking anything that deals with guns. We don't even have to talk about guns in order to produce an outcome that stops mass shooting. That's just what we have to do. So, hopefully, I don't know, the end of my rant. Hopefully, you guys think about it, talk about it, and start building these narratives. If you got some ideas, shoot them my way. Maybe I'll include my next video because we have to do something. One of the reasons why I started this YouTube channel so that I have 3 kids and I see what YouTube does to people. I see how people, I've gone down that pipeline myself, man. I would be a part of the 3 percenters. I used to think that the government was the worst fucking thing on this planet. I so close to joining a militia and like training the Texas State Militia. And then one day, I don't know what happened. I just snapped out of it. I was like, what the fuck am I doing? This is stupid. Like, the government's not trying to come kill me. The government is of the people for the people. Yeah, I've been there, man. I know. And it was people being around me that really helped me out, questioned me, whatever. Hopefully, that's my challenge, y'all. Thanks for watching. Subscribe, check out my YouTube, have a conversation.